What's up, Simonics? Welcome back to a new episode of Simon Talks About the Things He Just Read. Recently, I read an article on Indie Hacker about developers and how they are bad at business. And today I want to explore this problem together with you and find out if developers are bad at business or also why they are bad at business, because I identified a few problems that I see either in myself or in other people online. Today, maybe we will find a solution for this together. I don't want to talk about this article too much. You can find the link below. You should definitely read it. It is really a great article and gives you a lot of food to process and think about. And also, the things I talk about in this video are definitely not true for all developers. Maybe you have one or two of these problems, maybe you don't have any of them, but it's definitely good to think about them and evaluate them in your situation. So some just have a different approach. For myself, I'm a solo developer. I need to build my own income, which means all my goals are somehow related to finance. If you're working in a company and you have a safe income, your focus might be different, or if you're just a student and trying to get your degree, of course your goals will be very different. Keep that in mind. This is just my perspective from this point of view. Still, the problems are basically, a lot of developers have these problems. Alright, problem number one, developers see things from a different perspective. Over the last time I created a lot of videos, and in some I showed that my Ionic Academy is built on WordPress. I got comments from other developers that were basically laughing about this because in general WordPress sucks and PHP sucks and everything related to it is just a laugh. While I totally understand the meaning behind these comments because WordPress has a lot of flaws, I got hacked through a bug in a plugin that I was using, so it was really challenging sometimes. But WordPress also brings a lot of benefits, and I feel like some people don't see the bigger picture of this, especially developers. I use WordPress. I used it back then for my blog because it was easy to get started, and WordPress is just the blogging platform number one. And I used it for my academy because I know about WordPress, I know about the ecosystem of plugins, and I wanted to build a membership site. My focus was on establishing all the content for the membership site, to have this inside area, a community, and payments and subscriptions and everything that is related to this. And while I think about creating all of this myself, and I also thought about this in the last time, the decision was definitely 100% correct to stick with WordPress for this system. WordPress handles everything for me in terms of the payments, the subscription, the member management, having the rules in place to hide the content. If I would now go ahead and build this for my own with like Node.js and whatever tech stack, it would take me weeks of work. The benefits for people, the members, is really small. It's just that I then know I used a cool tech stack, but it is not related to the business aspect of things. So that's why I use WordPress. It allows me to build the thing that I want to build very fast. I'm able to provide resources for developers on this platform, and I don't have to worry about the technology, and I don't have weeks of development before I can either get started with the content at all. Problem number two, I think, is developers see value in writing complex code. I know clean code is great and good code and everything of that is certainly important, but if it is not related to your business at all, then it doesn't really make sense. So for example, I recently saw this tweet on Twitter about a PHP script that brings in like thousands of dollars every month. It is a simple script. It does serve a business purpose to remind people about doing a new job posting or whatever, and it is super simple. Still, it brings in a lot of money. Now you could argue that you need a different system, webhooks, whatever, message system, queues, anything that would be totally overkill, but this simple script solves a business problem. It is not a complex piece of code. It is PHP, what a lot of people don't really like. Just as a note, I'm not a PHP developer, I've never been, but I think if you're using PHP to build something and it works, then why not use it? And also you can transfer this to other problems as well. Example, subscription handling. I tried to implement this in the past myself using Stripe and using webhooks and managing all the subscription myself. But there are great services out there that could handle this for you. It is not just a small functionality, it is really a lot involved. You need to show invoices, you need to allow credit card updates, account updates, all these pages that you might forget, and it might take weeks to implement a solid functional system. It can definitely make sense to use another service for this. I really like to use packages like Stripe, Mailgun for sending mails, and different other packages that just help you do the things faster. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. While I know some developers really like to do this, it is really something that is sometimes not so required for your business, and therefore you should follow the easier path and just get the job done. This also brings us to problem number 3, which is developers are excited by coding challenges. This is certainly a problem that I have myself as well. I talked about this in the past, that I try to come up with new ideas, and basically all ideas I get are inspired by things where I thought, this would be really interesting to implement. And if we only focus on this aspect, that something is challenging and interesting to implement, we forget that we might want to build something that is actually useful for other people. Also, the reason why I currently try to find a market or find a problem first before I actually come up with a cool idea. So it's the other way around. It's not coming up with an idea and then finding someone to sell, but it's finding the problem and then generating the idea to solve that problem. So I got this funny sticker on my laptop. I don't know if you can see it. A week of coding can save an hour of planning. I certainly hated all the meetings when I was working a regular job, and this is just a funny quote about it, but it is certainly true to some degree. Because some developers just want to write their code and they see all the value in this code. It should be complex, it should fulfill all requirements and offer a lot of functionality. But if you skip the planning, well, the code isn't really useful if it is a functionality that the end user won't ever use. So again, I know not all developers are the same, but I also sometimes think a bit like this, feel like I just want to write the code and get it done, and then afterwards I think, maybe that wasn't so important to do. So, are developers bad at business? I think the answer comes down to how you answer the questions that I didn't bring up, but the problems basically. Are you more interested in writing exciting code? Do you always want to use the latest technologies and don't think that you can use a legacy stack like WordPress for something? Are you always thinking about implementing things first before you actually see the business value? These are questions that only you can answer for yourself. Again, this may vary if you're working towards different perspectives. If you're working in different directions, like just getting the degree, then it certainly makes sense to do projects and just get better with your code. But if you're just like me, a solo developer sitting in the office trying to build something that could pay my bills eventually, these problems are things that you should definitely monitor very closely. So not all developers are the same. I hope you enjoyed this little talk about business and developer. I would love to know your perspective on this topic, because I think sometimes this can get really emotional because business and developer are not always the best friends. I know this from the past in companies that I worked. Sometimes there's really a huge gap between like the management and the actual developers, and this can really cause a lot of problems in the long run. So let me know your opinions right below the video, and before you do this, of course, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed. You know, Thursday vlog, Tuesday other tutorial content, and I hope to see you next week again. So this week, go out, think about the problems we just talked about. I hope you have a good answer to them. Maybe this gives you something to process. Read the article that is linked below. It is really great. Props for the creator. And then I will meet you next week, like always, and happy coding, Simon.